Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. The focus of our radio show is to find the best trends that'll help you in your job. Do whatever it is that you do a little bit better. And we find these trends by interviewing companies to see what's going on with their world, bring their challenges to the forefront, discuss with them how they're dealing with those challenges, and relate these challenges onto you, and let's face it, to me, to make ourselves a little bit better at what it is that we do. The trends today are numerous, and they continuously go back to COVID. And boy, I would be so happy to never have to talk about the impacts of COVID right now. One of these days, we'll hopefully all be talking about the impacts of COVID in the background. I remember when, and I remember when I was thinking, and here's what happened when I did this, and looking at it in the rearview mirror. Unfortunately, every day we seem to be looking at it closer and closer as it's impacting in some form of our lives. Many of the smaller companies are able to deal with these changes on the fly, a little bit easier. They're a little more nimble. Larger organizations are struggling, perhaps. We all heard how they moved to a work-from-home environment fairly seamlessly, most of them, and how productivity rose for a while. It'll be interesting to see if those productivity gains remain in their workplace. Other organizations put on events, and events where people gather and congregate are not happening these days, to say the least. They are a breeding ground of the bad stuff, and that is exactly what's going on with the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. It is the world's largest fishing rodeo, and this year their challenges are quite unique. What are they going to do with the world's largest fishing rodeo when people aren't supposed to gather? The website says it attracts over 3,000 anglers and 75,000 spectators. As far as I can remember, as long ago as I can remember as a child, we would go to Dauphin Island, and that fishing tournament was a big part of the summer, going and walking through the tournament, looking at the fish that were being caught, watching the boats come in. I'm not sure I've ever fished in it, but it's been a part of my life for a long, long time. And today they are dealing with the same challenges you and I are dealing with. What we're going to do in a minute is get Blake Thomas on the line. He's the Vice President of Publicity for the 87th Annual Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. He's been involved with the rodeo for 6 years, and he works at Austell USA when he's not with the rodeo. Talk to him about the challenges they're facing, the changes they're needing to face and put themselves through in order to hold the rodeo, how things are going to be different, what we can expect as consumers of the rodeo. Is there going to be any sort of concert series? Is there going to be any sort of ability for people like me to walk through and look at the catches? All this kind of stuff. They are going through contortions just like the rest of us. Theirs is a big one. 87 years of history, largest fishing rodeo in the world. And what are they going to do about it? We'll talk to Blake Thomas when we get back from this break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
The best, most cost-efficient ways to talk to customers about who you are and what you do is through signs, simple, effective signs. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Signorama is the Mobile area's leader in helping you design and build signs advertising your business. What kinds? All kinds of signs, all kinds. Find Signorama on Facebook or at signorama-mobile.com. back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. On the line with me is Blake Thomas. Blake is the Vice President of Publicity for the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo and has been involved with it for the past 6 years or so. Blake, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Thanks, Cam, for having me.
I'm glad to have you on here. The Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo has been a part of this part of the country, well, for 87 years, and has been a big part of the summer for the city of Dauphin Island and the residents down there, the fishermen all along the Gulf Coast. But this year, due to COVID, you guys are having to make some changes, and I'm curious what those changes are and where your ideas for what these changes will be have come from. Tell me how the committee has worked through this process. When did you guys begin to realize something had to change?
Well, usually, Cam, what we do is after every rodeo, every year, we start planning for the next one. And we were right on track with, starting the 87th, getting our committees ready, getting our VPs ready, our board members. And then just like the rest of the world, we got, broke into the COVID. We did take some time. We started doing, Zoom meetings and following social distancing rules. And there was a time where in the back of our head, we were afraid that, it may not happen. But our goal was to 100% of the time to do our best to have the rodeo. Going back in history, there's only, 2 or 3 times that we have not had the rodeo. A couple of those times being during World War II, and then one during the BP oil spill. So we started looking, following protocols. We're all volunteers with the rodeo, and we're all members of the Jaycees. And a lot of us, all of us have primary jobs that we do, and so we kind of started putting forth rules and ideas for what we were doing in work, what we could do to carry over to the rodeo. A big thing was social distancing and trying to be an advocate for not spreading the disease and the virus. So, what usually takes us about, 12 months to put a rodeo on, we literally had about a month to make that decision and about a month to actually put this year's rodeo on.
That's a lot of work in a short amount of time. Who was in your ear in the process? Were you seeking outside experts to give you advice on whether people congregating outside, which is supposed to be a lower risk, still a risk, but lower risk, was a good idea, a bad idea? Who were you talking to throughout this process?
Well, the main people we were speaking with was the island and the mayor. We really wanted to make sure first that, they were comfortable with us in our idea and our plan to go forth with the rodeo. We need them. We work side by side with them every year. We stayed in touch with them in good communication with the town, and just watching and listening. We've reached out to the medical experts with the county. And like I said earlier, a lot of us have jobs in the fields that require social distancing. For example, I'm the safety coordinator at Oslo USA. So we were a company that did not shut down. We were considered essential employees. So using ideas from our place, we have people that work in the medical fields. Basically we just put all those ideas together and tried to come up with a solid plan. And I feel like we have done that to promote, social distancing and stopping the spread and items like that.
So give me a sense of what the calendar is going to look like this year in terms of you haven't changed the start date. You haven't changed the stop date. What about the events that are normally a part of the rodeo? What's that going to be like?
Well, we've all been kind of joking about that. We're really just going back to the original date of 1929. We're having a fishing tournament and a fishing tournament only. In the last couple of years, we've been very successful in bringing live music to the rodeo on Friday nights. We've always had the liars contest on the Thursday night before. All those functions are not happening anymore. Really, the problem in doing something like that is trying to make sure that items are being followed, if that makes any sense. We didn't want to be the group of guys that put on a tournament or a function that when you ride by the site, normally you see 5,000-6,000 people sitting down there. and looking at leaderboards and such things like that. And we did not want to be that. So this year we've canceled the liars contest on the Thursday night before the rodeo starts on Friday morning. We are not having live music anymore. We are not having a fish box, which has been a staple for the rodeo in past years, where kids and patrons can come and look and see the fish that are caught. So we're not doing any of that this year. The award ceremony that happens on Monday night, we're not doing that anymore. So it's just a lot of that we usually do, we're not doing anymore.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we're headed that way.
You've peeled it back to its core. It's fishermen, it's hooks, it's bait, it's water, and it's a scale. Nothing more.
That's it. That's absolutely the way we're pushing this. And we just felt that was the safest way to continue the history of the rodeo.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious what entrants are like. Are you seeing a spike in entrants? One of the pieces of information we've been given is a lot of the recreational activities have spiked in interest due to people being quarantined and so ready to get out. Boat sales are up. RV sales are up. Pleasure craft sales are up. All this kind of stuff. Are you seeing a spike in interest as people say, heck, let's get outside and go fish the rodeo?
Yeah, we have, from our social media accounts, just general information that we're gathering. We're seeing a huge interest in this year's in the 87th rodeo. Unfortunately, there's other tournaments that ended up canceling. And I think that sparked an interest on our side as far as fishermen. They're wanting to get out. These type of tournaments, they're competitive. Some of these guys have been doing them for 50 years, come from all over the United States, and that's what they want to do is fish the rodeo. And we have definitely seen an interest in a spike and making sure that, what are we doing? Are we still going to have it? And our response is, yes, we are going to do it. And we're going to do it to the best of our ability to be safe and keep all of our fishermen safe.
Tell me why the Mobile or the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo is as popular as it is. Why is it the world record holder for a fishing rodeo? That'd be a difficult question to answer. We've had nicknames as the working man's tournament. We've had, we are the oldest and the biggest on record. And, we have the billfish tournaments that are big. We have the big boats, and that's something you don't see as much on our site. You don't see you do see some big sports fishers come in. But I think it's just the heritage, the history of the rodeo. How it started, looking back in the history and showing how, there wasn't a bridge, everybody came to the island. The original site, weigh-in site was near Fort Morgan. It really is just enriched with history. And I think that carries over to granddads and fathers and sons. And that's something that every one of them can share, those types of memories. Yeah, it's a big deal. And it's rolled around for years, continuing to go on. Do you all have more, let's say, and I'm not an expert in fishing rodeo, so I'm asking some probably overly simplistic questions, but do you have more categories of fish than other rodeos would have? Do you feature more inshore fishing versus offshore fishing? Is there a signature look like that of yours?
I would say we have a variety. Unlike some other tournaments, we have 30 categories. We have inshore and offshore. Some of them, when you have a slam, you're just going to have 3 types of fish that you're going to go after. With the rodeo, you can enter a ladyfish and still win one of our prizes. And we've seen fishermen off boats. We've seen fishermen off piers. We've seen them, wade fishing off of kayaks. I mean, I think we're so, open to that part of it. I think it opens our tournament up for any type of fisherman instead of just one type of fisherman. Some of the bigger tournaments, they could go out and be gone 4 or 5 days and, fish after one species when, our guys, our fishermen will come in and they'll have a bucket full of fish, And I think that's what's intriguing about our tournament is, just the diversity of the fish that we bring in.
Yeah, I remember. Don't you have a category of strangest fish or rarest fish or something like that?
We do. We have what they call the most unusual.
Yeah.
And that's usually what we have is Dr. Sean with USA Marine Services. Dr. Bob's been influential in that. They'll see something, and I've seen in my years with the rodeo, I've seen Dr. Bob go, what is that? And it's very interesting. I mean, it's awesome to watch him, research these fish and go, well, I've never seen that before, or I haven't seen that in 40 years, and he's very, it's awesome to watch the scientists go, how did you catch this fish?
Right.
And the easiest answer is always like, I just dropped bait down.
Yeah.
And it's always real funny to see that. But, it's awesome to see the research that's done and see these fish come in. But, yes, that's correct. We do have a most unusual. Most unusual has got to be interesting to see what wins that each time and where it came from. And I'd love to see those scientists, scratch their head and rub their chin and try to figure out what it is and where you got it. That makes it pretty exciting. Let's go to the break. When we come back from break, I want to talk about how you're going to perhaps weigh these fish and judge these fish in the world of social distancing. We did a program not too long ago with a company called Fishing Chaos, and I see that they're a sponsor of yours and wondering if you two are going to be working together. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. On the line with me is Blake Thomas, the Vice President of Publicity for the 87th Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. We'll be right back. This is Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Jim Mitchell and his team at Signorama have provided all types of signage for nearly every event I've been a part of for years. I know his team's creativity, their multitude of products, and how easy they are to work with. His No Mistake Signorama is South Alabama's marketplace leader. Find Signorama on Facebook. Call 634-0100 or visit next to Mullinex Ford on Airport Boulevard.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
Human Resource Department on insurance billing mistakes, Obamacare rules, and compliance. Employee benefits serve the purpose of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding employees. We can handle all of your benefit needs with cost-effective products, employee enrollments, and handle your HR issues. It doesn't have to be complicated. My name is Michael Cowart Jr. of the Cowart Group, and we specialize in helping businesses with their employee benefit packages. Visit CowartAssociates.com.
Blake Thomas is the Vice President of Publicity for the 87th Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. He's talking to me a little bit about the challenges that they face in the time of COVID. How do you hold a rodeo when people can't get together and things such as that? You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Blake, how are they going to weigh fish in considering the social distance requirements? Have you guys rehearsed this out on the dock or gone through a plan of how this is going to look?
Well, actually, we've been talking about it. That's been a big item for us. Coming down the line and coming up with our rules. The hardest and the easiest items to do were to cancel some of our bigger functions within the rodeo. This weekend we have the Roy Martin tournament for the kids, and this is what we use as a rehearsal. We're going to see what works this weekend. Items have come up of, like I said earlier, we won't have the fish box, which is one of my favorite items to watch the kids come around and look at the fish. And, there's always, a lot of children around there looking at the catches that come in. It's big for the USA Marine Sciences. Students will sit there and they'll explain the fish, say where it's caught, where they come from, what they eat. They let the kids touch them. It's just awesome. But that's one of the things that we're not going to do this year because, you you can't really social distance people standing around a fish box looking in with all their heads stuck in.
That's true.
Weighing in the fish, we talked about coming off the docks. We're going to try to watch the influx of people coming in. Maybe hold some people on the boats. Let them sit there and let the lines kind of get down. Talked about putting X's on the dock 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
And just letting the boats stick with their own boats. And that's something that, it's going to be a work in progress. This is the first, for everybody in the world. And, a definite a first for us. So that's what we're going to do. This weekend, we have our last meeting tonight before the 2 weeks of rodeo start. And that's going to be a big item that we make a decision tonight. And that's what we're going to go with. And those are items that, we're going to communicate. We've been communicating via Facebook, answering people's questions, giving them call back, just for people asking just general questions, how we're going to respond to this. And, hopefully we'll have all those answers, by this weekend. But like I said, it's just really a work in progress right now. And, like I said, we're going to take, angler safety is priority. So that's what we're going to keep in mind tonight at our meeting.
I like the idea of the rehearsal being this weekend with the Young Anglers Tournament. That's a good idea. You can get a sense of how people are going to behave and what they're going to be looking forward to and what they're going to expect from you. I think that's probably a prudent way to go about it, is this weekend being the rehearsal. Are you actually telling people, spectators, to stay away? Or are the grounds going to be closed? Are you going to have an armed guard there shooting anybody that wants to look at a fish?
No, sir, we're not. We're gonna keep in mind, we are gonna have, like I said, Dolphin Island, the town of Dolphin Islands, they're such an important part of what we do. We're going to be working with them. We're going to do our best to keep the numbers down. I think people, more or less, even when you see people out, they kind of know that, hey, this is kind of the norm right now, and they see too many people out there, maybe they won't come up. We're going to be walking around. We're going to make sure, people aren't gathering up. We're going to do our best. We are going to have the leaderboard, the normal leaderboard that we have up so people can come in and see it. We're doing things like we're actually starting June 11th, we started selling, T-shirts online. That's the first in rodeo history as well. Now you can buy your purchases online and we'll ship them after the rodeo. We're doing things like that to try to stop the lines from growing because it's an awesome thing. People love to come down and, they'll stand in line and get their T-shirt. There's people that's gotten a T-shirt for the last 30 years and they keep them in line, So that's things we're going to keep an eye on. Like I said, like you just said earlier, we don't really know how people are going to act until probably this weekend. But we're hoping that, everybody kind of works together so that we can still have a great rodeo and keep everybody safe.
What out of this, Blake, do you think is going to become, this is too soon to tell. I'll admit this question is premature, but what out of this will you think may become a part of the rodeo going forward? Has your team and you identified an idea that you've come up with that says, this is a good idea, COVID or no COVID? Yeah, you're right. It really is too soon to see, because this year, the one thing that we have is we're usually really excited to tell people what we're doing new, what we're doing next, what to make the experience on the rodeo site, even better. And this year it's been what we're not doing. So that's been, really different for us, to kind of change our mind frame of, okay, what are we doing new and what we're not doing? That would be a question that I'd love to give you an answer after the rodeo, because that would just be, okay, this is what we did. This is what worked. But hopefully we as a country and in a world can fight through this and, come up with a way to handle it other than just not doing anything. Yeah. What about revenues? You may have more entrants, but what kind of revenues are you losing from spectators that may come by and buy the T-shirt or something like that? Any forecasts there yet?
Well, yeah, we're we forecasted and looked forward to maybe some lost revenue from, of course we had lost revenue from sponsorships, which we totally understood. We're not having our sponsorship tent this year. And the way we do that for our sponsors is patrons walk in through the tent and they're able to interact with our sponsors. And this year we're not doing that. So there was definitely some lost revenue on that. We are keeping a good attitude and a positive attitude about, we really think that this is going to be a huge rodeo for us. Like you said earlier, I think people are ready to get out and do something competitive. Around the county, there's no baseball, there's no football. Well, I don't want to jinx that. I don't want to talk about the football, but
be careful
the spring baseball. Yeah, I know I just tread lightly. And just so much stuff has canceled, and you just have people sitting at home. So we feel that it's going to be a huge interest this coming up weekend and the next weekend, just kind of getting out and seeing some competitive or, sportsmanship going on. Yeah,
I think so. And I'm sorry, your what do you call it? The Liars Tale?
The Liars Contest.
Liars Contest. Man, that thing is fantastic. I'm sorry that one won't go, but that's one of the more prudent ones. And I imagine one of the more simple decisions to make was to eliminate that one, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was on the top of the list.
Yeah.
Actually, well, like I said, all of it was on the top of the list. We actually came to that one of the last ones, though. It was a lot easier to say we're not going to have live music. That is definitely one of the big social gatherings that the governors come out with, is music venues and such, like, things like that. When you do have live music, you become that type of venue. We had everything planned. We had bands planned, just like we've had the past years. And, that was one of the things that a lot of the members that have been in for a while, like, hey, Liars Contest is one of our favorite things. And, it's one of the fishermen, they love to come put their chairs out and listen to the fish tales and the lives. So, we had to group that up into our cancellations, which was
sure.
Pretty sad on that.
So I'm kind of affiliated with the event industry, Blake, and I give a lot of workshops and seminars across the country. And nearly every one that I had on schedule through, let's say, September now, it keeps extending out, has been turned into a remote, has been turned into a webinar or something like that. No one is canceled, but everybody has changed the format in a good way. I'm curious, as you had to cancel these bands and things like that, did you tell them, hey, next year, we're going to keep you contracted, next year you'll be back? Did you cancel them? What was their attitude? Because I'm real curious. They must be struggling. All these live music performers must be struggling right now too.
Yeah, communication to all of us is very important. When we started seeing this, in April and March and April, the first thing we started doing was communicate with them. And by that time, the forecast of not doing anything was lingering around. So communication was valuable in that, and the fact that we told them what was going on, we were upfront with them. And yes, you're correct. We talked to them. It was one of those things. Hey, next year we're going to line this up, and most of them, they're like, okay, we understand. They've all been there, very helpful with it, and we're right there with them with the cancellations and everything else. On a personal level of our rodeo committees, we usually have crawfish bowls and things like that every year. It's a couple of things that we do to reward, the members and things, and we've had to cancel all of those. So, they've worked great with us. All of our sponsors have worked great with us. And, it's one of those items that we bring up, hey, next year we're going to be right back to where we were. We're going to beat this thing. And everybody's been very supportive of that. Yeah,
that is the sense that I get as well. While all of us could use a little work, a little cash flow, we're definitely very clear, at least people like me, kind of affiliated with the event industry, what's going on and the challenges that other people are facing out there and holding event. And while it would perhaps be a lot of fun, very self-indulgent, it might also be the most selfish thing that you could do right now, considering the hazards out there. Let's go to break, Blake, and I'll talk to you when we come back. Give people a picture of what they can expect from the rodeo this year. We've talked a lot about the incidentals, but let's build a picture of what's going to be a very unique rodeo and those that are fishing in it, those that want to keep an eye on it through whatever means, television, what they can expect. We'll discuss that when we come back from break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess. Mom! Work from home is a lot of work. Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
The best, most cost-efficient ways to talk to customers about who you are and what you do is through signs, simple, effective signs. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Signorama is the Mobile area's leader in helping you design and build signs advertising your business. What kinds? All kinds of signs, all kinds. Find Signorama on Facebook or at signorama-mobile.com. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions, and on the line with me, Blake Thomas, Vice President, Publicity, 87th Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo this year, which will have an asterisk next to it in its entire history of 87 years. The asterisk will mean COVID. It's the COVID asterisk, and there's a lot of those asterisks showing up at events and whatever it may be around our nation right now. But Blake, going forward, there are a lot of people looking forward to getting out on the water, competing. I love the description you gave. People are ready to compete again. They're ready to have some good, friendly competition. Tell the listening audience what is the rodeo going to be this year? It's going to be different, but it's going to be great because of why?
I think it's going to be great. It's different because we're not having what is becoming the normal for our tournament. We always put on a great fishing tournament. A lot of people don't realize that we're volunteers. We do this because we love it. And we work really hard on it every year. I think what we could see different this year, of course, what we said, all the entertainment's canceled, but, getting out there, getting in your boat, fishing, I think that's going to be, everybody says, a bad day of fishing is better than sitting on the couch, right? I think different this year, there's not much as far as the actual competition. We were able to leave a lot of that the same. Other than the state came down with cancellation of snapper, red snapper, which we did have a jackpot and we did have a snapper select, section on in our rules and everything else. But, we looked at that and we changed that accordingly. We replaced snapper with lane snapper in the normal categories. The speckled trout changes. We have changed our rules to reflect the state's rules on the new slots and all that. But other than that, the open competition tickets, the items like that, how you buy them online, that's pretty much stayed the same as we've had it for the past couple of years. We've tried to work really hard on keeping that the same. But other than that, that's like I said earlier, we're going back to the original 1929 fishing tournament.
That's right.
And we're going to have a good time doing it, and we're going to do our best to put on a great tournament for the fishermen and the public.
Blake, what is the easiest category to win? What is the category that's most often overlooked that you could say, man, if you can catch a blank that's at least this, you're going to win your category?
I'm always, I've had people ask that, and I've seen other people answer those questions. And, I don't think anything's easy about fishing. You always have the people talking about, well, if you're not catching anything, you're just getting your lines wet. But there are people that go out and go after a certain type of fish. I think it's very diverse. I mean, you have your guys that go out and, catch jack crevalle. You have your guys that just go after speck. You have guys that just go after reds, during that tournament setting, I think you just set your mind to what you're going to go after and stick with it. We always see a lot of white trout come in, a lot of ladyfish. But as far as what's the easiest catch, I don't think really any of them are real easy to catch. But I think you still have a good time trying to catch something, spending time with your family and your friends on your boat. Like I said, that'd be a hard question for me to answer easy, but we do see a lot of ladyfish come in. Sometimes we'll see a lot of specks come in. It just really depends on the weather and how everything's going.
What's the furthest you've heard of a fisherman going in order to catch something and bring back to the rodeo?
Well, we have our rules dictate the lines. You go to adsfr.com. You can go to our rules section in our book, and they'll tell you the longitude and latitude of where you can go. I've heard people going to Louisiana.
Yeah.
I've heard people going, all the way to, all the way to our end of our lines. We see guys that we don't see until Sunday. Those hardcore guys, they'll leave on Friday morning and come and weigh in on Sunday and been out on a boat for 3 days. I've heard guys going 100 miles, 150 miles offshore. It really just depends on, once again, what you're going after. But yeah, I've heard some guys headed out towards Louisiana and Mississippi and Florida, and as long as they're staying within our rules of longitude and latitude, I think you can go really wherever you want to go.
Yeah. They're committed. They're hardcore folks. I've heard about them. I've been invited on those trips. Cam, we're going out for 3 days. We're going to, we're not coming in at night. And I'd say, excuse me. Yeah, we're leaving at 11 p.m. and we'll be gone for 3 days and you should come. And I thought, gosh, I'm not so sure this, I'll admit I like my creature comforts. And they've got to come in smelling.
That's dedication.
They've got to come in smelling at least as bad as the fish. It's a competition for who stinks the most.
That's right.
Yeah. Blake, I wish you the best for this tournament. I know you guys are in difficult circumstances, but I can hear the positiveness and the enthusiasm and the energy that you guys are bringing to it, and I appreciate you putting it on. It's one of the fingerprint events of our part of the world, and world famous, largest, and really grateful for the work that you and the Jaycees do to host this tournament every year. Thanks very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Blake Thomas, folks, is the Vice President of Publicity for the 87th Annual Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. It's on. Even with COVID, it's on. Take a look. Go to the website. You can check out what's going on there with the rodeo. We'll be back after this break.
Do you sometimes wonder about different money topics, but struggle to find the answers? The Every Dollar Counts podcast with Gulf Coast experts Josh Knoll and Jay Stubbs is made for those folks serious about their financial plan and looking for answers. Josh and Jay dedicate their time to explaining the various services and products available, as well as discussing lifestyle and money interests of the modern-day family. Tune in to Every Dollar Counts on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your favorite podcasts. Do you have a plan to protect your income if you can't work? We'd all like to believe that we'll never be disabled, but the reality is it could happen to you. And if it does, will your income be protected, your family be cared for? Richard Otts has served the Gulf Coast since 1997. If you'd like more information about disability insurance, contact Richard 251-342-8917. That's 251-342-8917.
Welcome back. I'm Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Big thanks to Blake Thomas and his team at the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo. I can sense their frustration that this event isn't going to be the same type of event in times past. What do you do when a invisible organism cancels nearly all the activities of your signature event? It's almost too mind-boggling. You can see a storm cloud coming on the horizon, if you're out there on the water or on Dauphin Island, and you know how to react. You shelter down and you know that this squall is going to move through. But what do you do when a microscopic organism, even perhaps smaller, a virus, just waylays everything? It's never anything we could have predicted, and I commend these guys at the Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo for putting their best foot forward, for plastering a smile on their face, for saying this signature event for the Deep South is going to look more like the original event. We're going back to the roots and pushing forward with it. There's so many organizations that are having to take a bitter pill right now and push forward. So I was contacted yesterday by a financial services magazine. A lot of the research and the writing that I've done historically has been in the financial services sector. And they reached out to me to get some comments for an upcoming article about how to work with each of the generations that are saving money and preparing for retirement today based on the COVID virus. And in fact, there is research that we are doing along these lines, which should be available any day now, that will help me update my content. But what do you tell an investor who has a nest egg? And this is one of the questions that the Financial Services magazine asked me. What do you tell an investor who has a nest egg, and that nest egg has been just wrecked by the stock market? The stock market has been up and down and up and down, so they've seen it grow and dwindle and grow and dwindle again and again. But more importantly, what do you tell an investor who's worked hard to save his or her money or money for their family, and they have to get into that money in order to keep the doors open, in order to keep the lights on? What does a financial services person say? That their nest egg is going to have to be depleted in order to pay the bills, to pay the mortgage, to whatever it may be. That their retirement nest egg necessarily may be whittled down. My advice to this financial services magazine, as I was writing the answer to their email, was to tell this investor better to have a nest egg than to not. And there's always time to rebuild it. However, and I think this is the part that I'm struggling with myself. However, it might be time to admit that the future might not be what we had hoped it would be. It might be time to admit that the future may look quite different than what we had planned for. If the nest egg is being dwindled down early in your adult years that you've worked hard to save, then you necessarily have to frame yourself, take the frame of mind of, maybe my retirement's going to look different than I had hoped it would. Maybe the years of travel that I had hoped for might not happen to the degree that I had hoped for. Now, that's a very defeatist attitude. And there's always time to build something up. There's always the hope that something will come back, that your business or your nest egg will grow again. But my sense out there right now, as we sit here in July, as this dang COVID junk continues to change everything we do, is that people are beginning to look further down the road, not just until the fall or until the winter. Back in March, when this first struck, when I first began to realize this was going to impact me, I was looking into August. I was looking into June, maybe July, and worst case scenario, August. I'm realizing those expectations were now premature. That the work that has funded my lifestyle, that has paid my bills and paid my mortgage and everything else, it's been irreparably changed. And that the future that I had hoped for myself might necessarily change as well. And that I might need to get my thoughts around what a new future must look like for myself and my family and my children, and be okay with that. And that's not easy. The dreams that I had built and the images in my head have been fertilized over the years by the repeated mantras of, if you do this, things will turn out okay. Well, I've done them. And things may not be, and they'll be okay, but may not be the way I had anticipated them. And all due to a almost sub-microscopic virus that is changing everything. On the outside, on the surface level, there are things like the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo on Dauphin Island, where the functions of the rodeo may change. I never was clear of whether they're going to turn people away if you show up at the rodeo site to look at the leaderboard. I wasn't clear if they're going to let people congregate whether they're wearing masks or not. Perhaps I didn't ask him the right question, but it seemed like there was some ambiguity about what they're going to do if people show up. I remember years past, the concerts were always pretty big. I feel like they may have had Dr. John down there one time, which is one of my all-time favorites, now deceased. But the music portion of it is, you can replace it. You can push it away. The live scales, the fish tank where you can see the catches that will always encourage people to congregate. But it's the look down the road that I think is beginning to settle into some people, and you can hear obviously that perhaps it's settling in for me. That things may be changed going forward, and as much as we want or don't want that to happen, depending on your point of view, if you're in the mask business, you're hoping things never change, that they just may. And the businesses that I work with are beginning to realize that this leap that we all took into this new behavior, whether it be working from home or Zoom meetings or whatever it may be, we all rushed into this in an eager willingness to help out, an eager willingness to not be a part of the problem. If I can do this and it will help someone else out, then I'll do it. But it won't last for long, we quietly said to ourselves in our heads. It won't last for long before the old ways that I'm good at, that I know, that I'm comfortable with, will be back, and we'll look back on this time as a odd memory, something that we'll remember to our children and remember to our grandchildren. My sense is the business community is beginning to think until there is a vaccine that has proven itself, and it could be end of this year, it could be next year, who knows? Until there is a vaccine that has proven itself, we're not sure how this is going to end out. And 18 months to 2 years of 1 foot on a banana peel, 1 foot on the slippery ice, there's going to be long-term change. And I'm beginning to realize this. My business clients are beginning to realize this. The magazine that was interviewing me that I referenced a moment ago was asking this question. This is now the future. And what are we going to do? It's uncomfortable. It's frustrating. And we've had our planning upended. I'm not here to be a downer. I'm here to say I think the realization that this is not a short-term thing is beginning to sink into people, and I would love to listen to this recording somewhere down the line and remember that I was proven wrong. I would love it. I would love it. So again, let's go back to the deep sea fishing rodeo. Kudos to those folks for keeping their eyes forward, for staying positive, for pumping each other up, for keeping each other focused on the goal of keeping this 87-year-old tradition going forward. And rather than sounding defeated by the way it's going to look this year, they're simply saying we're taking it back to its roots, to the earliest days of the rodeo. That's what it's going to look like, and we'll be very proud to present it that way. And I wish you the best of luck, folks. My family shares a house not far from that rodeo site, and if the schedule works out, I can't wait to go out and sit on that dock and watch those boats roll in and see how that rodeo goes for you. Again, thank you for your work. Thank you for your efforts and the smiles that you've pasted on your face pushing forward. I truly appreciate it. One of the things that Blake said was the healthy competition of fishing, and I have to admire that. It's fun to get out there and compete. It's fun to compete with people that I think go through a lot of the same stuff you go through. And I talk about that not as a frequent competitor. There are plenty of people that compete more and more frequently and more bitterly than I do. I'm not exactly the most competitive person you'll ever meet, but every now and then I like to get out there and compete and see who does well. And there's a moment in any competition, at least for me, where you lose yourself in the competition, knowing that it's a healthy way to lose yourself. And again, I'm not the most competitive person. I've hung out with some of these people. I find them, frankly, boring. They can't get over any sort of competition, whether it's a golf game, whether it's a business thing, whatever it is. I find them tedious. But a healthy fishing competition is something that I can appreciate. And I get into these competitions with my own kids on those infrequent occasions where we can all get on the boat and fish together. There's always a competition of who's going to catch the first fish, regardless of what it is, who's going to catch the biggest fish, regardless of what it is, and who's going to catch the last fish. So first, biggest, and last. And we kind of document those types of things. And it often leads to my kids trying to catch some sort of trash fish, just so that they can get on the board, if you will. And too often that trash fish is a catfish. In fact, one of my son's nicknames is Catfish, because he could be in a mud puddle on the side of Airport Boulevard. He's going to throw a line in and catch a catfish. It's an uncanny thing, his ability to catch a catfish. In business, the competition that I face, and I'm curious of your thoughts here, is more often with myself. How good can I be with my client? How well can I perform for my client? What type of service can I provide? What type of level of service can I provide for the client? What am I capable of? And I think I can speak personally. I tell you about myself when I say this. I think one of the worst questions I've ever asked myself, and I continue to ask myself, and wish I could get it out of my head, is the very simple question, what's possible? What's possible? What's possible for you, Cam? What's possible for your future? What's possible for the way you treat this client? What's possible for the way that you construct this radio program? Is even this content, this monologue content in this radio program? What's possible for the types of guests that you can find and put on the air? What's possible for the revenue you can perhaps earn and help your family out? What's possible for the amount of money? That question haunts me. It haunts me. And it's a question I wish I had never asked myself, because it never gives me a chance to pull back. And as I go through this COVID crisis, as my business fell off the cliff, and I'm not here to whine, but the question continues to come up is, all right, that's gone, Cam. What's possible now? What's possible now? And I've gone through these scenarios since mid-March going, what is possible? What is the next step? What is the future? I'm tired of traveling at the rate I used to travel, so I'm going to change it. So what does it look like, Cam? What's possible? And I wish there was a bolt of lightning that would strike a bush in front of me, make that bush turn into flame, and a voice call out of that bush and say, Cam, here's what you can do, and you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to be good at it. As long as it doesn't require airplane travel all the time, like my old job used to do, I'm interested in what that burning bush has to say to me. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. And I continue to toil ahead, excited by what's possible, at the same time consumed by the gravitas of that simple question. Well, let's wrap it up. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We're grateful for their support. They've allowed us to do some things that we've been unable to do otherwise without their support. The show continues to grow in our community, and I'm grateful for all of you for listening. Thank you very much. The downloads from the podcast continue to increase. Every measurement that I can see continues to suggest that things are going well. John Thompson with Ion Digital produces the show. Kristen Ogden helps me organize the guests and clear our calendars for one another. She's been absolutely instrumental in making this show possible for me. I want to thank the advertisers, the sponsors. I want to thank 106.5 for being as generous as they have with airtime. And we will have another show next week, everybody. Have a good week.